This episode of Historians of the Movies podcast is brought to you by our new Patreon.com subscribers, Ariella Archer, James Vetstadt, James, I hope got that right, and Nicole Donahue. Guys, thank you so much for helping to make this show possible. If you would like to help support the Historians of the Movies podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/historians at the movies. Hey everybody, welcome back to Historians of the Movies podcast. I am your host and creator, Jason Herbert, and every single week we are bringing you movies and the histories behind them. And this week, this month, oh my gosh, guys, I hate horror movies. And if there's anything I hate about horror movies, it's zombie movies in particular. So naturally, we are doing a zombie movie tonight. We're talking, of course, about 2004's Dawn of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder and written by James Gunn. This movie came out in 2004 alongside Shaun of the Dead and a couple years after, 28 Days Later. And there was a bit of a renaissance of zombie films with those three movies in the early 2000s that have led us all the way to today. And it seems like zombie movies have really been part of the horror movie hierarchy for the longest time. So I brought on for you two amazing scholars, and I'm talking about Thomas Lecaque and making her very first appearance on the pod, Kelly Baker, to talk about Dawn of the Dead. We're talking about the history of zombies. We're talking about the history of zombie movies. What you would do in the zombie apocalypse, and the best zombie movies of all time. This is a really fun, at times silly conversation. I'm afraid that this pod might just get me canceled. So listen at your own discretion because this episode goes places. That said, guys, buckle up. Sit back and relax, because Dawn of the Dead is next on Historians of the Movies podcast.
I just don't want to embarrass myself in front of you because I think you're amazing. And Jason, not that you're not amazing. I just again, Kelly, you're one of my...
No, in the early emails, you were like, Kelly is
fine.
amazing. Yeah, and there was nothing. There was and also Jason is on this email. So
also Jason is on this email. So yeah.
So no, that was great. It was neat. It was neat how I was completely just left out. You know, a man I talk to more than my own children. But that's cool.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
From a distance, apparently.
Listen, Jason, I paused downloading Baldur's Gate 3 for you. I need you to just understand, I'm showcasing love for you in very different ways right now.
Okay, well, enjoy your cerveza. So Kelly, sometimes we drink on this pod, and this was like a game time decision because Tom had tech issues and went into, I'm just going to drink tonight.
Ran home from the university in order to do this.
Oh no!
Too late.
Oh no! Yeah. Well, I have an iced coffee since I'm not a drinker, so
Okay. Is it okay? I can go put this away upstairs.
No. You're good. I promise. Okay. No worries. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the consideration, though. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just like, should we drink? And then Tom was like, yeah, absolutely, because Kelly is my idol in life, and she won't mind at all. So
thankfully, I didn't say any of these things. But
the fun thing that you should know, Kelly, is that John Wyatt Greenlee, who is a regular on this pod, is also in a text chat with Thomas and I. And so I just started messaging Tom.
Group text I have, by the way. This is the only group chat I have not left.
Oh, I have many. And they're all filled with crazy people. So I have one with me and the women that we did Raiders of the Lost Ark with, and we call that Super Chat. And that is just bad.
I don't even know how to name a chat.
It's a super friends chat. But I started messaging Tom about the pod tonight, and John's like, "Am I supposed to be on this podcast?" And I'm like, "No, you're being left out on purpose." So we're talking about zombies tonight. So John Wyatt Greenlee, if you're listening, you're dead to us, and that is.
I hold no responsibility for this. I'm just a bystander.
John is a lovely human walking around in near human form because he is a zombie. So, all right, let's do this. Kelly, you wrote a book on zombies. You guys want to introduce yourself? I guess we're not doing like an introduction tonight. Fuck it, let's just roll.
We can do it. We can do introductions. We can do all the proper stuff.
All right, we're joined tonight. Walking in, stumbling in. Kelly Baker, Thomas Lecaque. Kelly, you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing here?
Sure. I guess I can.
You got voluntold to be on this pod.
Yeah, I did get voluntold. That's okay though. Yeah. So I'm here to talk zombies because I wrote a book about zombies, which is a thing that people can do, I guess. Called "The Zombies Are Coming: The Realities of the Zombie Apocalypse in American Culture." I did have to look at the title because it's really long and I can't remember it off the top of my head. And just about zombies and the kind of cultural work that they do for Americans. And so we're here to talk about zombie movies and talk about that, I think. And maybe just to laugh a little too. So I hope. And maybe you guys won't make me do chronology. I have a whole bunch of dates written down because I'm afraid of historians. So I always Today I was like, remember the dates, Kelly. Remember the dates. The historians are going to ask you about this kind of stuff.
They are not. We are
not.
Okay.
We are anti-date people.
Oh, well, that makes me feel even better. Okay. Yeah. So I did a lot of legwork today for no reason, but that's okay.
You are so much more prepared than the rest of us.
This is actually perfect because, so for those of you listening right now, why do I always say that? For those of you listening, obviously you wouldn't hear this unless you were. Fuck it. Either way, hi everybody. I usually prep people, and tonight Kelly is not only having the very first conversation with Kelly tonight. I didn't prep Kelly. She has no idea what she's walking into for this pod. What topics we're going to talk about. This is going to be near spontaneous. And Thomas doesn't know either. Only Tom expects the zaniness that is this pod. Lots of dates. So many dates we're going to talk about tonight.
They're delicious fruit. When you dry them, you can put them in all kinds of food. Put them in like a little cake.
You can't say the word date without me thinking about that scene in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, with the monkey with the bad dates. I cannot see that. All right, Tom, introduce yourself to. This is your 19th appearance on the pod.
No way.
Surely that's not real. Surely that's not correct.
Probably low.
No, it's probably like 6. It's probably like 6.
I think you're like an 8.
Really? Cool. Love it. I'm Thomas Lecaque. I do history of religious violence and apocalypticism in a whole bunch of periods. I traditionally teach a class on zombies as a first-year seminar. I have taught it for a number of years at my current school. It is currently in hiatus because I'm not teaching overloads this year for the first time ever, which is beautiful, but it meant something had to go. And the first time I ever taught that class was my last semester of my master's program, and just as on a whim, because it was my last semester of my master's and I could. And the very next semester, I started at the University of Tennessee and met Kelly and found out that actually this is just a thing that like serious adults can do, not just like zany little master's students. And it fundamentally altered the trajectory of my life.
Serious adults.
Well, see,
yes.
Serious. That's what
we've now put that burden on you. You're the serious adult in the room because it's definitely not me.
Great.
It's definitely not me.
Welcome to Serious Adults with Jason. So I have to tell you, Tom, I didn't know you were actually qualified to be on tonight's podcast.
I know, but I am. It's wonderful.
I just thought, Thomas will come on and Kelly wrote a book on zombies and we'll have a great time. Zombies scare the holy living shit. I had a nightmare.
Did you discover this while watching the movie?
No, I am afraid of 2 things, zombies and commitment. So,
so settling down to a single zombie film is all of your fears at once.
Just sitting on the couch by myself, having a nice time. No, I have had nightmares about zombies since fucking Thriller. Since like 1984.
So formative, like.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, nightmares. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about like the hierarchy of monsters here in a little bit. I'm sure zombies scare the crap out of me, and I'm not kidding. When I only have nightmares actually about, and I'm 47 years old, and I still have nightmares Rarely, but when I do, it's actually about zombies. They scare the shit out of me. And it's
Whoa.
October, so we're supposed to be doing horror movies on Historians and Movies podcast, things like that. And I originally said, let's do World War Z because that's not a zombie movie that scares me. And Tom was like, let's do a scary movie.
No, he picked a scary
scare the
one.
shit out of me. Yeah. In a lot of ways, Dawn of the Dead revitalized zombie films. You go back and watch.
Yeah.
2 movies come out in 2004. Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead in 2004. And they change zombie movies. Because all of a sudden we got scary zombies. Like zombies you can't get away from.
Do we need to end the month with a warm and fuzzy one and do like Dawn of the Dead at the beginning and Shaun of the Dead at the end? Because I saw both those movies in theaters in college. I loved them. I love them so much.
We can absolutely do that.
They're both. I have them both on DVD down here in my basement. So
that's amazing.
Well, I want to get into this film here a little bit, but before we do that, I want to lay the groundwork about zombies themselves. Because I think for a lot of people, they scare the crap out of people. There's a reason why they're one of the monsters, right? There's vampires and werewolves, mummies and mothers-in-law. And in my mind, zombies are number 2 after the 1. So I wonder, can we talk a little bit about the historic nature of zombies? This is not a cult. This is not a uniquely Western phenomenon, to my knowledge. Where does the idea of a zombie come from? Both of you guys have written about zombies. You know about them. So what's the history behind a zombie itself? Where does this idea of the undead come from? And I'm not talking about Jesus, of course, who is a completely other undead dude. But where are the other stuff? We've just lost Tennessee for the listeners. There's about somebody walking out church going, I don't know how I feel about this no more. But where do zombies come from?
So when we talk about zombies and where they come from to us from Haitian voodoo. So the idea comes to us through Hollywood is what happens. So ethnographers find that there are things called zombies in Haitian voodoo where people are in this corpse-like state after they've died. They're made into these slave-like creatures where they can work the fields. They can do this kind of stuff. It's haunting. It's uncanny. Something's going on with this. White ethnographers are like, whoa, this is something that I want to write about. And I want to write about how exotic this is. I want to write about what's going on with this. Also, possibly, maybe they could do this to us and we should be nervous about it, right? In some kind of way. So you get various ethnographers and then various fiction writers that start writing about zombies in the 20s and 30s. And then the big thing that happens is that Hollywood picks this up in 1932. See, I did need my dates. With White Zombie, which is a film in which there is a voodoo, you can't see my scare quotes, folks, but just imagine that they're there, witch doctor who then, of course, it's a young white woman who comes under his thrall, who becomes this zombie. She's eventually saved, of course. But we have the zombie in pop culture, right? They're mindless, they're soulless, they're, again, captured in some sort of way. There are zombies also in this film who are workers, right? Who are doing the work of capitalism, unsurprisingly, unpaid labor. We have a harkening back to slavery with this. So that's when we first kind of get zombies. Those don't look really like what we have now.
It's just also like, it just jumps into like our historical consciousness at a time that U.S. Marines are hostily occupying Haiti in service of actually building a banana republic. And so it's like a weird moment that we're like, oh, wait, we are once again abusing the island of Haiti. We are hostily occupying it. We are instituting, if not exactly slave labor, near similar conditions on the ground. And the real fear is like, oh my God, what if the things like we're doing to people of color could get done to us as well? The thing I always find like so horrifying about this original idea of zombies is the idea that like not even death will end slavery for you.
Right. It keeps going on and on and on.
Nightmarish level.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking about the idea about the infections because I want to get into the general rules of zombies, about how one is contagious. It's different than, say, with vampires, where there is an overt sexuality with vampires.
Yeah, zombies are
I
just
guess-
gross,
completely
man.
different thing.
Yeah.
Right.
No, White Zombie is doing that kind of whole play because what is the white dude who's doing voodoo spells on her is trying to abduct her from her husband. Do I remember this
Right,
correctly?
yes.
I have
Or
not
her
inflicted White Zombie on myself for a
fiance.
while.
Yeah, no, fiance, I think is what it is. Yeah. So not married quite yet, but like that, yes, very much wants to capture her because of like want of a sexual relationship, right? And
Yeah.
so there is
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it is like the contagion piece I think is interesting because zombies are gross, right? Like there isn't that like appealing sort of thing you have going on with vampires at all, right?
You get
It's
prettier
not
when
like-
you become a vampire. You become more sexy.
That's right.
You
right.
sparkle in the
yeah.
sun.
You sparkle in the
No,
sun.
Not
The
that. Not
Fuck
that.
you, Duke. So we're not. That will ban you. You will not be here for number 9. I can see that. Goddamn Twilight thing.
You're out. You're out.
Really?
I mean, yes, no, that's fair. That's fair. I'll show myself the door.
Somewhere in Utah, John White Greenlee's going, yes, I'm back.
That is the meanest thing you've ever said about JW. That was unkind.
But so what happens then is that zombies change from this like idea that we have in like the 30s to this idea that happens in the 60s with George Romero, right? Because Romero changes the genre for us, so that it's no longer as attached to conceptions of Haitian voodoo. Instead, it's this contagion thing, right? Like it's radiation from space in Night of the Living Dead, right? In 1968. I'm using my dates. I'm determined. I have my cheat sheet. I'm making it happen. You know, and so that when the dead rise, then they're there and they're corpses, right? They're like obviously corpses. They're not kind of as gross as like zombies become, but they're starting to get there, right? In a way that's like slightly more realistic and slightly more gross. Like, I mean, that's the thing that I always tell people is I kind of got into zombies unintentionally. Like it wasn't like it's not like I find them fun. Like I'm not a fan, right? Like I'm not like a huge fan of zombies. And the thing that really gets me is like the grossness factor. so that I'm always
you guys went to the University of Tennessee and they notoriously have the body farm.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
I would really enjoy a zombie 5K through the body farm. Actually, I think
Oh
that
my
would
God.
be a really fun idea. Can you imagine?
Do you guys want to
horrifying
describe what the body farm is? Because we know what the body farm is, but I feel like now that has to be part of this. If you are not familiar with the body farm at the University of Tennessee, you need to look this shit up. This is forensic science at its. They're the best of this, right? I mean, that's what they're known for.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic thing. I have no idea actually where it is in the vicinity of Knoxville, and I never went looking for it, but like it's a giant swath of territory where they bury bodies in various stages with various things embedded, and police, federal law enforcement people come and work with the forensic anthropologists there to basically go over the clues with bodies in real states of decay to learn better investigative techniques. And it's a huge deal. And yeah, I mean, just like nice little things about being a vol is also that there is a field of the dead somewhere on university property that you don't know about.
Your tax dollars are quite literally paying for this.
It's really important. It's it's a really important facility. It's a fantastic thing that they have there, and also incredibly disgusting.
Yes. Well,
what are the general rules for zombies? Like when we talk, you talk about how we first see them in their early, obviously they come to us through voodoo, but in film, have the rules for zombies and zombiedom changed over time?
Like they're like genre conventions, right? I think is what we would say, right? Like so that something happens and the dead rise is like what I would say number 1 would be. Number 2, I would say is that they have some sort of craving for humans, whether it's brains or human flesh, right? Mm-hmm. It varies depending on what we're talking about, as to what they're attracted to. But humans are food is number 2. Number 3 is that the beginning of this, like the corpses rising, is the end of civilization. So these are always apocalyptic tales, right? And that's part of what interests me so much as a religious studies person, is that they're always like end of the world scenarios, right? Like that it shows like how quickly shit just gets real and people like fall apart. And let me think. Oh, number 4, these are also survival of the fittest tales, right? So that when we're talking about this, we're following a group of ragtag survivors as they make their way through the apocalyptic scenario, right? But even in that kind of mode, like some survivors are better survivors than others. And this is kind of what we like follow along in some sort of way.
The thing that makes it such a quintessentially American genre of apocalypse, though, is that also there is a solution. That solution is the firearm.
Oh, I forgot guns. How can I forget guns? Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like it has expanded beyond the United States. It's like there are other takes on it, but the fundamental solution is that you shoot them in the head. And so it is an apocalypse that is so beautifully American because it is, again, in the same long line of bullshit American ideas about how, like, the only solution to a problem is a good guy with a gun, your farmers picking up muskets to become the Minutemen, your cowboy with a revolver wandering into town. It's the zombie apocalypse. How do you survive? We discover that every American, when faced with a crisis, can pick up a 9mm and become a better crack shot than even the Turkish member of the Olympian team. And we're just going to wander. We're going to wander through the waste, headshot after headshot after headshot after headshot, finally justifying our paranoid, our culture's paranoid insistence that everyone should own 10 to 12 guns that can kill a human being.
I particularly love when they lean out of windows and shoot. And they're remarkably accurate, right? Like I like it when they're doing it sideways. Cars,
sideways with a 9mm doing it. Yes, I mean, like you can tell that the people who make these movies have never fired a gun in their life.
That's one of the big things with the film is when Andy is shooting. It's one of the comic parts of the film is when Andy is shooting. Jay Leno and Burt Reynolds and all of these guys. They play it for laughs at times.
Yeah.
But a major component of this is we've got to get to the guns and ammo so we can get out of here. It's like the missing piece for our survivors, right?
Yes.
Because we're overwhelmed. And the only way to get through this is through guns.
Copious violence. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, though, this film marks a change to my knowledge because I think at Dawn of the Dead in 2004, this is the first time we see running zombies, to my knowledge. I don't know when else do we see. What else? This seems to be the big thing. Was like I remember watching when I was a kid, and maybe this explains a lot of why I ended up the way I am. Watching these films, and the zombies were always the lurching people you could just kind of run away from. They would get you en masse, but running zombies.
I double checked this. 28 Days Later comes out 2 years beforehand, and 28 Days Later, while being only pseudo zombies, those are runners.
They were fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That movie. The first time I saw that one was scary,
terrifying, and that actually brings us to a great question, which is 28 Days Later a zombie film? Because it's a contagion, right? It's zombies by another means, right?
I vote yes on zombies on that one. I think.
Yes, on zombies. It's also they're dead, right? They're not dead when you meet them, but like brain activity has ceased. Zombies have to be the unintelligent dead. Like Night of the Living Dead, there's a hybrid. A couple of them use tools, but they're clearly unthinking. You can't communicate with them. We are not doing. You're not doing like a vampire is a smart, suave, charming undead that talks to you. Ghosts can run the gamut, but ghosts communicate, right? Zombies do not communicate. They might moan, right? You can make creepy noises. You can go. But you're not getting anything beyond that, right? So 20 days later, the zombies, they're not technically dead. They'll die of starvation later, but all they do is kill. They don't communicate. They are unsalvageable. You can't cure them. I think they're zombies. Terrifying zombies. Beautifully done, scary zombies. I have to be honest, I'm really excited for 28 months later.
I am too. It's coming soon.
It's going to disappoint me. I know it's going to disappoint me. After that much time, right. I mean, I love the first two movies. They're very different films, but I love both of them deeply. I don't think there's any chance that 28 months later will be as good as either of the first two, but I'm going to watch it in theaters.
What is more frightening, a horde of the undead or living in Wisconsin?
Definitely a horde of the undead. I mean, like, I'm now lactose intolerant, so like Wisconsin would be a particular form of torture because I would just be looking at cheese curds all the time, gently weeping, single solitary tear streaking down my face. But like, that's a torture I could live with. The zombies would be scarier.
I've actually been told Milwaukee's actually a good town.
I love Wisconsin. It is a beautiful state that I've gone camping in with the kids. I love Wisconsin. It would be a fucking terrifying state to have to deal with the zombie apocalypse in. I love that. Like, we're going to take a boat.
We're going to get into this.
You disagree that that'd be a terrifying? Have you been to Wisconsin?
I went to school in Minnesota. Yeah, I went through Wisconsin.
Okay, so you know that, dude. It's the forests everywhere. They're wandering out of the trees. It's the caves. It's the lakes. It's the zombies. The Apostle Islands, like their idea, like, oh, we're going to take the boat. They're uninhabited islands. Those are not places I want to deal with zombies. I love those islands. They're beautiful. You'll never see them coming.
Dude, I am from Kentucky. Okay,
fair enough. Kentucky would also be bad.
We are the woods people. Like, let's go. Like, that is like, I've thought, like many people, I spend my time thinking about what I would do in terms of a zombie apocalypse. I have thoughts on this. I feel like we're good.
This is the first place I've ever lived where I did not have like a formulated plan for how you survive the zombie apocalypse from here. But I live in suburbia. I'm dead.
No, you're not. You're fine.
I wake up with them breaking into my back porch door, and like I get eaten. That's how I discovered the zombie apocalypse.
Do you know what you've got going for you in the zombie apocalypse?
Nothing.
You live, sir, in Iowa. The highest population of hogs in the country. All you have to do is get some person to let those things go. Hogs are apex predators. You let hogs go on a horde of zombies, they will fuck them up. I'm telling you. Can you imagine? We've got Night of the Living Dead, but what about Night of the Living Pig?
Sci-fi?
I'm telling you. Let's go.
Pigs of the Dead? No, honestly, I would. They made a Sharknado 6. This is not the worst movie idea I've ever heard.
Hogs would fuck up a zombie so bad.
I would watch that movie. No, I think I'm dead because I live in the suburbs of Des Moines, and like the opening sequence of this movie
Let's talk about that.
like it's a terrifying thing because like I live in a subdivision. It is, it is white suburbia. It's the worst. It is out of a town. I am on the northern suburb of the biggest town in Des Moines. There are only so many ways out of the neighborhood. It is house after house after house after house, and the neighborhood kids would not break into my house. Do these people not lock doors? Like, come on. You live in Milwaukee. Lock your front door. But yeah, no, you're not getting out.
Probably not. Kelly, what are your thoughts on this opening scene from the time she gets out?
Oh, I think the opening scene is fantastic. Like, I just think it's so great. Especially because of like the creepiness of the neighbor kid, right? I think it's just so effective, right? Where you have the moment with her and the little girl where she's going to teach her how to skate backwards and they're going to have this time later, right? And so you have this like intimacy that's created, and then she shows up and they're like, oh, she's just in our hallway, which is a thing that she does, right? And then like they are not even fazed by it until you get like the shadow that like gets like the light illuminates her face, right? And then you can tell that she's turned, and it's just so good, right? Like, it's such a good zombie moment. And then she of course like attacks and eats the husband, right? Which is also a great moment. But like, I love the setup of it, the way that they're able to like make us care about these characters in 45 seconds or less, right? In that exchange, and then have us kind of enmeshed in that domestic scene and then just tear it all apart, right? With this pretty much like preteen neighbor, right? Like just destroying all the safety and all the comfort and security of home, right? In just that moment. And then being trapped in the bathroom and forgetting how to like unlatch the window, right? Is also a great scene, right? Where she can't get away from the zombies, It was funny because my partner is not the biggest fan of zombie movies, and I'm not a huge fan, but I've just watched so many of them at this point. Like, I'm sort of unfazed, was walking through and he's like, just unlatch the window, right? Like this hilarious like moment, right?
How are you going to function when your husband is trying to eat you?
This is true, but it's just such a typical like horror movie reaction, right? Where it's like, just come on and do it already, get out of there, right? And it was great. It was like so classic. Where I was like, oh, this is great. I was like, she can't remember right now. There's a lot going on, you know.
She's having a day.
She's having a day.
No. Well, it's the fundamental terror, right? Because the zombies are not just like random monsters wandering out of the woods. In that initial moment, it's all of the people you love turning on you and trying to murder you. Like in this tiny moment where she's going from desperately trying to save her husband to desperately running away while he tries to murder her. Like that's what makes zombies so damn scary. And it's like, it's all the little foreshadowing clues right before that, right? Like, why is this guy getting sent to ICU from being bitten? We know why. She very clearly does not. You have the people who are lying down in the ambulance, and because we know that we've signed up for a zombie, we're like, oh shit, is this where it starts? Nope, they're just taking a nap.
Yep.
There's the radio in the car. They're starting to report the news, and then she turns the channel to music. They are having date night. They're having sex in the shower when you get the news flash. Breaking news. It's so
It's constructed so well, right? Like that first scene is
if Zack Snyder could just kept making movies like this.
Well, do you know who wrote the screenplay for this?
No, you've told me this before.
James Gunn.
I thought it was James Gunn
wrote this film,
Oh.
which explains everything. Because I kept thinking, why does Zack Snyder make such bad movies? Yet this is such an outstanding film. It's got all of these odes to previous levels of horror films. They've got a lot of the traditional zombie actors making cameos in this. There's all these kind of throwbacks, and even though the pacing and some of the shots are very reminiscent of, say, your 1960s, 70s. So there was a lot of love in this film to bring this back. And I think when I was watching, I was like, oh, this had to be Gunn and not Snyder. Because I've watched Snyder's other movies, and they've just gotten worse.
Well, he's really good at aesthetics. I mean, the problem is that the movies that, like, he does really, like, even with movies that I actively and violently hate, like, I think 300 is not only a bad film, 300 is damaging to society. It's a movie that has created harm. But it is a picture-perfect recreation of the graphic novel.
Beautiful film
Watchmen is a beautiful recreation of an Alan Moore movie that is completely soulless and misses the point entirely. Right, he does beautiful films that are hollow and empty. So, like, I think the actual, like, the good parts of the cinematography are actually probably Snyder, just with someone else writing the dialogue. It's why you don't allow George Lucas to touch a script.
Thank you. That's the exact analogy I was thinking in my head.
I hate sand.
Of course, it gets everywhere.
Opening credits.
Yeah. All the way up to where she's on the road, and the overhead shot of the car barreling into the gas station. Everything explodes and the music hits. And you're like, we are on a ride. This movie's short, too. This movie's like 95 minutes long.
Right.
This movie is quick.
Yeah.
And you're on a ride.
It's very compact. Yep.
Yeah.
I watched this over lunch yesterday.
Nice.
As I was, this movie does so many things so well.
What a healthy daylight hour to watch this. I turned this on at 9 p.m. last night.
No, I watched it during the daylight. I didn't play around. Yep.
You guys are really smart. About halfway through that, a child got up upstairs, and I discovered this because of creaking footsteps upstairs. It's like, I know what this is, but I'm really unhappy right now. I'm going to pause and just like go survey the scene.
Well, I got to thinking about this. Are zombie films, Kelly, not innately chase movies? On a basic level, you are getting your heroes from one place to another, constantly trying to get away from this nonstop, ever-moving horde of people. Eventually, they'll barricade themselves up, but there's always the breakout when people realize we can't stay here. We've got to make a run for it. That's the big push towards the end in the final in the final third of the film is to break out of the mall and make it to.
I like it.
To the marina, right?
Also, it's really stupid that they break out of the mall. Can we just say, like, how stupid their plan is?
I feel like the mall... Well, you can't stay in the mall forever. Eventually, you will run out. And eventually, the zombies are going to break in. Those are glass doors.
Were they going to break in? Were they? Sure doesn't seem like the zombies are going to break in.
You're going to run out of food. First of all, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. So you...
And we've just discovered the one thing that people will like about the zombie apocalypse is that Chick-fil-A is both always open and, more importantly, always closed.
There you go.
Yep.
I also thought the choice of Johnny Cash when the man comes around.
Yeah, I thought was a really great.
Yeah.
Kicks in, you're like, well, I'd forgot about that. And then you hear Cash, there's a man taking. I was like, oh, what's Johnny Cash?
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's so perfect for this.
So perfect.
And like breaking it in with the artificial news reports.
Yes.
Oh,
God,
it's so well done.
So well done.
Yeah.
It's
the final one where they're in Istanbul, and like then like at the very end of the thing, like the zombies break into the room where they're doing the interview, and that's how you like wake her up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's remarkably well done.
They're playing also. We talked, Kelly. You talked about the linkages between our conceptions of zombies and voodoo, which is a mix of Catholicism and African traditions. And we see early on people trying to explain the end times in terms of Christianity, right? So, can we dive into this, Tom, yourself as well? Like, what's the linkages here between Christianity and zombies? Because I feel like the big issue here is this idea Christians are always praying for, the end of times to go, and yet here we are. Here's the end times, and it doesn't look quite like what we're expecting here. I mean, is there a strong Christian relationship to zombies, or am I guessing too much?
If you ask one of my kids, they would point out that Jesus is a zombie. And this is what
I say this all the time.
Trouble. This is what gets me in trouble with our neighbors.
More importantly, Lazarus is definitely the first zombie.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So, like it just kind of depends. Like this is like the running joke in my household is my kids are like, well, Jesus was a zombie. And I'm like, we can't like do this with our evangelical neighbor. Like we could do this with our evangelical neighbors, but
that'd
like
be really fun.
But we should maybe not, right? Like because of where we live. Just maybe. Maybe. I mean, like under consideration, Baker children.
If we quantify what a zombie is, Kelly.
Right. I know.
Does Jesus not meet the criteria?
This is exactly the issue.
I think we should just start asking ourselves, like, is this the bodily resurrection we were waiting for?
Right. I'm afraid it is not what they had. Maybe.
I mean, okay,
maybe.
Fine.
Maybe.
Dies. They put him down. Comes back unrecognizable. Maybe Jesus doesn't actually look like John Stamos when he appears back to the apostles a few days later. Maybe he actually looks. Maybe he's. I don't know.
I mean, listen. Maybe we're doing a weird rereading of the fifth trumpet, Revelation 9. It's not actually locusts from the pit; it's something else.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I think the real thing is that like you can reinterpret this however you want, and so people like every apocalypse becomes a religious apocalypse if you believe it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. People really like biblical literalism up until the point that they want to read something into scripture that is absolutely not into scripture, at which point everyone gets super metaphorical. I think people would absolutely assume that this is a Christian eschatological event, right up into the point where they're eaten in the church, at which point they become part of the eschatological event, and good for them, bad for the rest of us.
All right. I want to ask you guys this. You're in the mall. You're in the original group. Do you let other people in? Are you part of this group when the van comes in? Are you letting them in?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like
I want to think so, right? The number.
I want to think so.
Except the lady in the wheelbarrow.
Come on.
Who was letting that lady in?
Okay. It's also like every single movie where someone has to explain to you that you shoot them in the head. Like, is this a universe where there are no zombie movies? Is this a near parallel universe where everything's the exact same, but no one has ever heard of a zombie before?
Right.
You don't need to explain to me shoot them in the head. You need to teach me how to shoot effectively enough when a monster's charging at me that I can make perfect headshot after headshot after headshot. I know what to do. That woman, you look at her, you know exactly what's happening.
You know exactly what's happening. No, I do love that scene where they're like, we brought her too. And I'm like, come on, guys. Come on.
This is a great idea.
I'm like, this is your best idea ever, is to bring the obviously sick woman into the mall and get really close to her multiple times where you're like breathing on her and she's breathing on you so that you're like close enough that she can bite you in your face. But yes, like, please make better decisions.
This is definitely
Yeah.
And Max Headroom has been bitten. He's clearly getting, I feel bad.
Well,
for
they
him.
at least lock that down early enough that he doesn't like turn randomly in the night.
Right.
But that's just, there are a couple of those. Of course, you let the people in. You do, like every zombie movie has the one person like, don't let any of the people in, and they're somehow the villain. But also, like maybe think before you like. The medical treatment is too far on that woman. Even if it weren't a zombie bite, it is very clear by the time they get her out of the truck, like she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I don't go after the dog. I realize this is a controversial take. I did not grow up with pets, and I don't own any pets, so I understand. Like this is the take that will have people booing me, and I understand that it's the you got everyone killed because of the dog.
You know who else doesn't have pets? Donald Trump. You and Don.
Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
He's also not a dog person, Thomas.
You know what? I see where we are, Jason. Okay. I see. I'm going to give you that point. I'm going to claim the point for the fly buzzing around your head. But yeah,
it's fine. I mean, the fly thing wasn't a choice, but you clearly making some right now.
I feel like with the dog, they should have known that was going to happen with her attachment to that dog, right? Like that was a foreseeable.
Why is she so attached to somebody else's dog?
Yeah.
I mean,
everyone else has died and that's her only companions. Like I get her being that attached to that. Why doesn't Andy close the door? Why isn't he waiting there by the doggy door to close the door?
He's not thinking it through. The hunger has gotten to him or something. But I don't know.
Well, it certainly did shortly thereafter.
It did.
Yeah, it's bad. Before we move on, I want to ask you guys about the casting in this film. Because this has some absolutely terrific actors in here and I think one of the reasons why it works so well is because none of them were stars. There's no big name.
There's absolutely a big name. Are you kidding me?
Who?
We've got Mekhi Phifer.
Bing Rames.
Oh, this is funny that you and I went for different
names. No, 2004.
Ving Rhames is listen. Ving Rhames is he's 10 years past Forrest Gump. I'm saying past Pulp Fiction. Excuse me. He's the name, but he's not a major star. The vast majority of this is Sarah Polley. It's Jake Weber who plays her love interest in this film. Who else? We've got Phil from Modern Family.
What I loved that so much.
So
like it was just amazing.
He's such a dick in this film.
He's so
great.
Yeah. No, I'm not with you on this. Mekhi Phifer at the very least is a star. Like this is him at like his peak. He has just been in. This is right after 8 Mile and Honey. Like he is a named figure in this. I think Ving Rhames is also quite big.
Did he even get like an and credit? Like I think he even got like an and or a with credit.
I think he got an and. Yeah. I mean, like Mekhi Phifer is recurring cast on ER while this is happening.
Yeah. There's another actor in here whose work you're probably very familiar with. He's in everything now. Michael Kelly, the guy who plays CJ, the security guard who does the face turn towards the end.
Yeah.
He's in everything now. He was in the Kevin Spacey.
Gosh.
You know what I'm talking about?
I just clicked on a picture of him. I didn't recognize him at all. Holy crap.
You know who I'm talking about. If you're right now.
Yes.
Google Michael Kelly. He's in every show. He's in The Penguin right now. He's a character actor. And I was saying this last night when I was watching The Penguin with a buddy of mine. Every time he shows up, you get a performance out of this guy. He's good.
I'm so unused to him having hair, which again I know is ironic.
And he's got the hillbilly kind of, he's got the thing with the mutton chops and stuff like that. But he full on goes full hero mode. He becomes superhero towards the end of the film. He's the guy fixing the stuff. He's the guy ultimately sacrificing himself. He's pulling the one dude out. I mean, full on. He goes full on hero mode. 3/4 of the way through the film. Yeah. He's great in this. He's absolutely great. I have some questions for you guys. Favorite parts of this film?
So, can we talk about the zombie baby? Like,
yes, is that your favorite part? Because I have
the baby right here. So yes, go ahead. We're all parents.
Can we just oh my God, I hate it
brilliant.
so much.
So
I mean,
good.
like it's so good. Like it's so good.
It's such a great device.
Like it's such a great device.
But with the shining eyes.
Yes.
You knew it was coming.
We
Had
knew
we
it was
seen a zombie
coming.
baby?
I don't know that we had seen a zombie baby like
I think
prior
that the zombie
to this.
baby is a great
You guys aren't
move.
fucking with me. You legitimately like this part.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
like it. I thought it was
Okay,
like,
Kelly,
whoa,
I knew
I'm
that
like,
I liked you. Jason, what?
No,
It's such a
I
great.
hate it.
It's such a great.
That is the part I
tool.
like least about the movie. And I hated that the first time I saw it in theaters, and then the second time I saw it in theaters, and the third time I had enough daiquiris in my system that you would have thought I would have liked it, but no.
I didn't
'Cause,
like it then either.
It was
They-
it was
the
New
way
Orleans.
they-
We had a daiquiri bar. Still didn't fix it. That is my least favorite part of the film.
Why? Why don't you like a zombie baby that you have to shoot in the face with a gun from America?
So this is like what gets me about it, right? Like I think
they don't have
that's
to. What if you stab a zombie baby in the face?
it's even worse. It's even worse.
I mean, like Jason, are you trying to bring back all of the horrible jokes that were like '90s era junior high jokes? Because like I'm not here for it. But also
maybe
I hate
there's a
everything against
bowling
Mekhi
alley in
Phifer's
the
character.
mall.
I hate Mekhi Phifer's entire character arc.
Yes.
And I think that having it be a zombie baby at the end like makes it like just the pinnacle of what I think is a really crappy ending to a character who does not have to die, does not have to become a villain, does not have to be a throwaway
He's
character
not a
who loses
villain.
his mind. I mean, like it may not be a villain, but like he dies shooting someone else over this. I think that there are ways that you could have given him an arc where he can be a grieving father and change and redeem himself. That doesn't have to be that particular bit.
Okay. Can I offer an alternative?
Sure.
What if the baby is not a zombie baby?
That would have been great. If it's not a zombie baby.
And then the zombies eat the baby. Like
oh no, it got worse.
That's one of the casualties.
Yeah, that's worse. That's worse. No, listen.
What if on the way out they drop the baby and then we get to watch them eat the baby?
See, that's worse.
I mean, Jason, I would have quit watching this time. I would have walked out.
Yeah.
I would have like turned it off, be like, nope, not doing the pod.
It's a horror film. It's supposed to be bad.
You're
supposed to amp it up.
Do not deal with depictions of violence against children in film anymore. I can't do it.
Now you had to make this serious.
Yes, that's what I'm here for. Jason, I'm here to ruin things. I'm not here to make things better. I'm here to make things worse.
No, you're here to make things worse.
All right.
Gets worse
Kelly.
before it gets worse.
All right, Tom, what is your favorite part of this film?
Oh, my favorite part of this film. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I really love the neighbor girl zombie. Like that is, I think, my favorite zombie, hands down. And then I love that you think that they're gonna get away, and that it's like a hopeful ending. And if you didn't stay for the credits, like you had a different experience of the movie than if you stayed for the credits.
Credits are the best
like
part of this movie.
I love it. Like it's freaking amazing, right? And then you get the like snapshots from the camcorder where it's building the narrative, right? Like, oh, we don't have food. Now we don't have water. Now there's something wrong with the boat. Now we made it to the island. Oh, wait, something's going on with the dog. Oh, shit. There's
Fucking
movement in the trees, right? Oh, whoa, there are zombies everywhere. Right. I love the way they build that sequence so much. Where I was like, oh, it was supposed to be a happy ending. Ha, just kidding. It's a zombie movie. There are no happy endings.
Everybody dies. Everybody dies.
Everybody dies.
Horribly.
Yep.
Okay. So you've taken obviously the best two parts of the movie, so I'm going to offer mine, which is no. Why are you apologizing?
No.
Yes, the
Sorry.
answers were entirely correct. Number 3 for me is the montage of life in the mall with the Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine cover of Down with the Sickness, which after this movie I acquired through the kinds of means that college students acquired music in 2004. It was Kazaa at that time. Maybe LimeWire. Had Kazaa just died?
It's interesting that you gave your computer a virus.
Yes. Yes. Well, and these computers did not survive. That part, I love that part where it is both like such upbeat music because it's Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine, but it's down with a sickness, and so nobody is making it out. Everyone is being a little weird. Everyone has lost their damn minds. Everyone is just trying to pass time. You know that they're all going to crack and make bad choices. There is no illusion that this is going to go well at any point. I love it.
I love the chess match.
Oh,
the chess match is good.
Yeah, there's a real friendship between these two guys. And it's so when Ving Rhames Andy has to be killed, it's Ving who does it, right? And Ving does a lot of these deaths where he kills the dad. He's like, I got you on this. I mean,
he's also the only competent character in the movie. Like, he is the only person who seems to have a very clear sense of we're gonna have to commit some atrocities to survive, and I'm here to do it because I'm excited about it.
He also
this is
has
what we're gonna do.
A reckoning here too, where initially he's like, I'm getting to my brother. I got to go to Fort Pastor, and he also has to come back where Sarah Polley has to be like, look, there are people here you can help, right, and so forth. Also, can I tell you, to me, we talked about killing babies and we talked about all this other stuff. For me, the most disgusting part of this entire film is when he cuts his arm in the well, in the fountain.
Oh, yeah.
So that scratching sound, every single, that, Francis, when I actually turned my head, I was like, it's gross. She's going to get tetanus. So
she's going to get tetanus.
Kelly, what parts of this film drove you nuts? Are the parts that you're like that? What are your least favorite parts?
My least favorite parts. Oh God, yeah, the baby is the top of that list. I really hate the calling out the zombies and then shooting them part. Where they're like the game that they play, where they're like, oh,
Jay Leno,
Reynolds, Jay Leno, Rosie O'Donnell, right? Like this sort of game that they're playing. That just annoyed me. I understand why it's there, and it's there for kind of laughs and levity and like
you have to figure out a way to make you've got to have these levity sections or it's too much, right?
But also exactly who in your town is playing that game in the zombie apocalypse.
I do, and I don't like it.
I find it deeply distasteful because I know sure, Jason, it's you, but in the same way exactly, if you grew up watching zombie movies and you grew up in a small town in the Midwest or South, exactly whose house you're breaking into for their gun vault.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a game that it is so disgusting, and rewatch is oh, we've always been broken as a country. That's right. But also it's the one that people would play that game in the apocalypse. I hate it. It's so gross, but also
you just don't like it. I will say that
you dehumanize,
the way it just dehumanizes it. I don't care for it. I always have this thing about the way in which kind of indiscriminate zombie killing just bothers me in these kind of films. I get the we have to kill them to survive sort of thing. I don't like when it's gleeful or joyful or that kind of thing. I can't handle that piece of it. I always am concerned a little bit more when it reads that way, as opposed to you're in the basement, they're in the basement, your ass has to get in gear to get away from them. That's a different mode of survival, right? Than the leisurely sitting on top of the mall, right?
The Walking Dead does this really well in the early episodes, in the early seasons where they're really wrestling, especially with season 2 when they get to the farm and there's this huge thing over the humanity over killing zombies at Herschel's farm. There's the great scene, I think, that John Bernthal is one of our great actors. You put him in anything. We see this in The Bear. We see him in everything. You put John Bernthal in anything, he is just adrenaline for anything. And he'll do a big role, he'll do a small thing. And that scene where he's like, things aren't like they were before. And he opens it up and, oh, God, yeah. That is just the human. I think they do that really, really well. Tom, what don't you like on this, aside from the baby?
I want to return to the gleeful killing. I agree it's distasteful. I also think it's why we have such American culture has such a love affair with the zombie apocalypse and why it's so big right now. And I think that it's a really
because you can
indictment
kill
of who we are. Well, yeah, but it's the gleeful killing mechanism, right? I think it's why they're so popular in their modern iteration, and why so many of like the solution for zombie movies simply like it is the mass murder. I mean, like Night of the Living Dead, like the end of it is clearly the white supremacy of society is going to get people killed, even survivors. But like what people take away is like, yeah, we're going to form a posse. I'm sure you are. We know exactly the people who are going to form that posse. Right. This is the thing about most of the American zombie movies is that like people get really excited for the idea of like, oh, good, I can finally use my gun for something real. And I think from the 90s onwards, like this is how do we do the NRA dream of your insane assault weapons for home defense without being a racist? It's not about my fear of black people, though. Of course, you know, all of your ads after the LA riots are explicitly a fear of an urban black population. That is the ads that are being put out. How do I justify this? It's for the zombies, which sounds less weirdly neo-Confederate than it's for the government, and more socially acceptable that I'm here for the apocalypse. People love the idea of like, how do I solve this? I'm going to pick up every gun and I'm just going to go through them. We're going to go down to the gun store, the police station, my basement armory, and I'm going to blast my way through. So like, I hate what that scene says about America, but I think it's such a great scene in the movie for like pointing out just how broken contemporary America society is. Where are you going to go to hole up? You're going to go to the mall. We are going to come worship at the altar of capitalism with a little bit of side, dose of our gun cult, for fun, not even just for survival, for fun along the way. I hate it, but it's also like it's a scene that I love in the film. I hate the zombie baby. Really hate the zombie baby. Hate everything associated with the zombie baby. I find I'm going to armor the mall shuttle buses scene deeply tedious. It seems like such a stupid idea.
Give me a montage
while they're doing it. I'm
like, with Jason. I'm like, give me a montage.
I want a montage.
Doing stuff like
I need a montage.
I'm there for it. Yep.
This is A-Team with zombies.
I was going to say, this is how I know that you're both slightly older than me, because like I feel like we should like someone should be putting Rocky on the back. We're a Rocky training sequence. No, I don't. It's not about a montage. I love a good montage. I wish that we could montage our way through semesters sometimes. That's like a great way of getting through to the end of it. But no, I just like the idea of like, oh, we're going to outfit these shuttle buses. Ooh, I'm going to lob the propane tank and this is going to work. What? You couldn't come up with a better escape plan than this. Are you kidding me? It's fine. It's fine.
Can I double back on this idea of shooting zombies recklessly? Because there's another aspect here to pop culture that we haven't reached yet, which is actually in video games. Because in every modern warfare, Call of Duty, there's always a zombie pack extension, something like that, where you can mindlessly shoot zombies. Every single one has this. Yes. So if you are teaching video games at a university, actually have your students play the video game that you were teaching.
Love you so much. Thank you for that.
So you can understand this, but it's in every single one that you watch, and it's mindless killing. It's mindless killing.
It's also easily justifiable killing, right? Because the problem in designing compelling villains in a video game is that, unlike a movie where you're just watching someone else's vision, when you're playing the video game, even though whatever promises of free will that you're given, you have free will within the scripted choices that you're given by the people who are writing the game. And that means that the people that you're massacring your way through have to be scripted in such a way as to justify. Like, I taught Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original trilogy, last semester, and there is a part in the third game where like you have two missions where you're just like three white dudes in Africa murdering your way through entire militias, and you never talk to anyone. You just murder everyone you encounter. And it's like in a series of games that have a number of profoundly gross moments, it's the one that really strikes me as like the most profoundly disgusting moment of the game, which is like, oh, how do we solve all of these problems in this war between the US, between Russia, but it's effectively the USSR and the US. We're just gonna do a little bit of indiscriminate violence in the third world, killing effectively identity-free, voiceless black figures for fun, and that we are never going to deal with this in any other way. A zombie killing game, at the very least, gives you the illusion of, oh, they're not really people. It's also the way that we usually do, like we start with these World War II games. Like arguably your first best-selling first-person shooter, because there are arguments about what starts first-person shooter, is Wolfenstein 3D, where you don't have to feel bad. You're a prisoner of war in a prison filled with Nazis. You pick up a submachine gun, you go. And these are like the two versions. Like it's either Nazis or it's zombies, and sometimes it's Nazi zombies. And then you know that it's okay
Yep.
Then it's okay to just shoot as much as you want, because we've made sure that we also like identify them as being clearly bad in real life. It's why we love the copious violence in a zombie movie, because you can have all of the horrific violence and gore you want without at any point the majority of viewers be like, yeah, but did you need to be so excited while you're butchering all of these people? Like, well, of course you have to. They're the Walking Dead. They want to eat you. But you're right. Like, this is the sickness at the heart of society, that like we're just so excited about an apocalypse you can shoot your way out of.
All right. I have a question. Kelly, Thomas,
Yes.
You've zombie experts here. There is a zombie apocalypse. Kelly, I'm going to have you go first. You are currently in the panhandle of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
This is isolated to each of you and myself. Where do you go?
Oh,
in the zombie apocalypse, what's your escape plan?
I'm a white woman feminist with a pixie cut. So I think my plan is that I don't survive, right? Like that's like, isn't it? Like, I mean, from what zombie films tell me
down.
That like, yeah, it just doesn't work.
You have no choice. You're
that I'm done. So no, so I guess if I'm playing the game, where do I go? I would actually probably go, I would steal my in-laws' farmhouse. It's in an isolated part of a nearby county. I'm not going to say where, just in case someone else tries to steal my farmhouse. That's even more rural and even more isolated, and hunker down there, I think would be the initial plan. But I have 2 kids. So this is the problem, right? So you have to be like stealthy, and you have to be like quick, and you have to be like quiet.
That's not what kids do.
This is not the way it works, right? Like, it's just not the way it's going to go down. I just feel like I would be like, hurry up, the zombie apocalypse is coming. And I would have like a teen and a tween be like, but wait, I've got to get video games, and I've got to get that. And I would be like, in the meantime, the zombie is like massacring me. And I'd be like, nope, it was too late. You took too long. Sorry. Just kidding, guys. Let's move along here. Yeah, no, I feel like there's just too much not in my favor for it to work out long term. So I just don't have a good plan. I'm just going to go in the first wave and then be a zombie and terrorize people is the long-standing plan. So,
Thomas, what's your plan to survive the zombie apocalypse?
So there's the real plan, which is I'm not making it out of suburbia. Based on just the number of choke, there are only 2 ways out of the neighborhood by car. Everyone's going to be trying to do it. I have 4 children, and my youngest is 5. So like we're going in the minivan. So this is not going to go well. Ideally, if we get out quickly enough, if I can get out of the neighborhood and I can get across the highway bridge. Right, you see how I'm dead already. If I can get there, then we're suddenly like, if we cross the highway, suddenly we're in very rural territory with a number of parallel roads, and I could wind my way north to kind of northeast Iowa, cross the Mississippi on one of the smaller bridges, or boat over. And like, frankly, my big survival plan is basically do the more northern version of what they do at the end of this book. The Apostle Islands are lovely. You can swim to them. You can kayak to them. They're beautiful. There are a bunch of seasonal cabins up there. That's the attempt. Now, am I making it there with 4 kids in the minivan? No, I'm not making it there with 4 kids in the minivan, but like we're going to give it the good old fashioned.
Gonna try. Just try.
Yeah.
Just try.
Because the alternative is like going south from town towards where my parents live isn't going to work. And also my parents live in like a small town, but it's 17,000 people. It's the biggest thing in the area. So people will be fleeing to that town. There'll be too many zombies. Like their neighborhood is not defensible. Neither is their house. My house, absolutely not defensible, not fortifiable at all. I don't know. There's not a good place on this continent for me to go to. If the zombie apocalypse starts when I'm in France, I would feel a lot better at my grandparents, at what was my grandparents' house, and I guess now my dad and my uncle's, because it has like strong shutters and like you could seal yourself in. We have a cellar full of delicious canned goods and wine. Like we're not going to survive in the long run, but I'm going to be really happy as I go out. It's going to be like me with a bottle of champagne in one hand and like a thing of pate in the other, and I'm just going to... There are worse ways to go. Go out in the most French way possible.
I'm actually I don't want to be that guy, but I'm feeling like I've got a shot. If the zombie apocalypse happens in the fall or winter, and I'm in Colorado, and I can make it into the mountains, I'm liking my chances. Because zombies don't have dexterity to get up through the passes. Scree fields are awful. And as the weather turns and it starts to get cold, their bodies will freeze. If I could make it north across the Rockies and into Montana, then I've got a new ally, grizzly bears. So I've got grizzly bears. I've got mountain
Are you going
lions.
to ride them into battle?
I could. I am just saying. Did you see that actually what happened with Fat Bear Week? They had to delay it by a day yesterday. Do you know why?
No.
Because a male grizzly killed a female grizzly on camera, on their live camera yesterday.
Oh, no.
Right before, he drowned and then ate her.
This is how you know that Fat Bear Week has gotten too big. The competition has gotten so fierce that they're eating each other.
Yeah. So anyway, my plan is to make it up through the Rockies. Now, so you're saying to yourself,
sure you
Jason,
don't look just like a very large, delicious land salmon?
You know what? I have a name, and it's bear. It translates to bear through a language, but I'm not going to tell that one right now. But I'm just telling you. Now, you might be asking yourself, Jason, don't you have 2 children in Tampa? And I do currently. However, I think that in the name of humanity, the best thing that I can do is hope that I can make it into Canada or Alaska, where also Sydney Sweeney has taken a helicopter, and then for the good of mankind.
I want to just go ahead and say once again, as horrifying as this might be, this would be such a better movie than like half the zombie movies I've seen. Like, this is such a better developed plot. Not even she's randomly there. Like, you just decide like randomly to have Sydney Sweeney, not playing a role, just Sydney Sweeney be there in the cabin when you break in. Still better than a number of zombie movies I've seen. Still a more coherent
doing this
plot.
for America and Canada. So I'm just
for both.
saying.
For both.
And my children.
Can we have a maple syrup montage somewhere in there? No, you know what? Given the context, I was waiting
for you to realize that what you were saying, but it just didn't happen fast enough.
Mistakes
were made.
See, the problem is what I want to say is that what I meant was tapping trees, and now it's too late at this point. That doesn't help anymore. Nope. That makes it worse. That makes it worse. Oh God, no, Jason. I mean, whatever. Listen, you live out whatever dreams you want to live out. Yeah, it's the lack of firearms. It's this is a proper American apocalypse. I have no guns in my house. I'm clearly not making out of the zombie apocalypse.
I'm from Kentucky. I have plenty of guns in this house. I have plenty of guns and a tomahawk that I was given to as a wedding gift 2 years ago.
I'm gonna
and a 4-wheel drive.
Oh yeah, you're gonna make it out. I'm not making it out. Though I do like the beginning where you have the random neighbor in his bathrobe, advancing on her, "Get back, Anna." I said, "Get back," and then gets hit by the ambulance.
Yeah.
I thought that was a wonderful moment reminding people that vigilante violence in suburbia during the apocalypse will only get you killed.
Maybe also don't stand in the road.
Maybe. Just maybe.
Maybe.
You need the rules from Zombieland. This is one of those moments that you need to think about the rules of Zombieland and add a couple more.
Yep.
So I was just thinking about Zombieland, which is just a terrific film. What historical figure would make for the best zombie?
I have the answer. I can't say.
I can't say because I work for the federal government.
Yes, you can't say because you work for the federal government. I can't say because I have been harassed at work enough. I don't know. George Washington would be a pretty funny zombie, actually.
Oh my God. You know how we would find George Washington? Because all we would have to do would be to find Craig Bruce Smith. He's a friend of mine. And he would be right there begging for George Washington to zombify him too. He's like, "It would be my honor, George."
Oh God!
Just
Kelly,
saying.
What's your favorite zombie movie?
My favorite. Oh, I really love Zombieland. I'm going to be honest. Because it's just so much
three,
fun.
Kelly,
top three.
Top three.
Oh, okay. So these are not in order. I feel like I'm not going to do the pressure of an ordered list. So Zombieland, Night of the Living Dead, because it's a classic, and I love that. Also gave my mom nightmares, so it's a great family lore story that she went to the drive-in with my aunt and my aunt's boyfriend, and they were like, "Let's go see this movie," not knowing what it was. And my mom is not a horror fan, So she ended up watching Night of the Living Dead and has like sworn off horror movies for like the rest of her life after this. Yeah, no, it's such a great story. And then I study this stuff. Anyway, Rebellion is great. And then number 3. I'm going to go for something out of left field and say Warm Bodies. So, because it's just adorable. Like, it's just adorable. Or Shaun of the Dead. So, yeah, it would be one of those two.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. So I used to show Warm Bodies was one of the 3 movies I would show in my zombies class because I love the movie and it's so sweet. And it's also like a great meditation on what it means to be human. And it's also so much less sketchy than the book.
Yeah.
Because they make them seem to be the same age. And thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Mine are, so Train to Busan is my favorite zombie movie, but it's also legitimately like one of my like 5 favorite movies. It is both. So my sister taught in South Korea for a couple of years, and I was lucky enough to get to go visit her there. So like I love that movie, but I've also been lucky enough to spend like just a tiny bit of time in South Korea, and it makes it so much scarier because like there's so many people in Seoul. Oh my God, like that, like the trains are magnificent, but the idea of being trapped going through these like massive cities through it, it's so good. The choreography of the zombies. Have you seen this? Both of you?
I haven't actually seen it.
Oh my God.
It's on my like to watch list, and I just haven't watched
Kelly,
it.
It is legitimately terrifying, and also it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite movies, and so I don't want to talk about it if you haven't seen it, but it is.
We'll do it on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, like this might be one of my 5 favorite films of all time. I love that movie so much. Okay, so I'll stop talking about that one because like you have to watch this.
Okay,
number 2 for me is Blood Quantum. The late great Jeff Barnaby's 2019 Micmac Reserve zombie film that is just fantastic. Michael Grey Eyes is in it, and he's just incredible in it. It is dark and it's scary, and it's really about settler colonialism and the kind of violence of settler colonial society against indigenous population, which was what Jeff Barnaby made his movies about, and kind of the ongoing violence against First Nations. But it's tense and it's gross and it's violent, and like a good zombie movie, it's not really about the zombies. And I just, oh God, I love it. And I love showing it to a class. And then I really love Warm Bodies. It's really sweet.
So
it's really delightful.
So sweet. Yeah.
Right. The musical montage scene where they're like trying to like put makeup on him so he can seem human, like, is just delightful. I love that movie.
Well, it's nice to watch a movie too about zombies that's just kind of thoughtful about like the ethics of like the relationships between humans and zombies, right? That just, it's kind of just a different like take on it as opposed to the always like, let's just murder the shit out of everyone that's involved.
Yes.
Right. So that just kind of gets wearying after a while, or at least it does to me. Right. Where, so that movie is just so refreshing to me that it's just a different kind of approach to that.
Well, and the idea of being a zombie being depression, like it's really like I think the movie works even significantly better than the book on that. But it's just like, it's really well done. It's really well done. It is deeply humanizing. It is a story about the human condition, not about zombies. And I just, Jason, what are yours?
I'm gonna throw some curveballs at you, and I would say that this is probably of films probably my single favorite, but I want to get some difference. I'm gonna say the very first episode of The Walking Dead, which I think was like 2 hours long. It's feature film length. It is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The way they set everything up, Rick waking up in the hospital, that whole thing where he's like gradually becoming aware as he's taking along, where the scene, and so much of like where he comes across, is it Carl? I forget, the African American man with his, not Carl, that's his son,
Morgan,
but, the guy Morgan, excuse me, thank you. Where he comes across Morgan and his son, and Morgan is wrestling with having to kill his wife. Right? Or the zombified version of his wife. Can he do this? You know, these real wrestlers are these people? Is what we're doing right? And of course, he comes across the woman and he's having the conversation with her. She's zombified there. He's like, I'm sorry this happened to you and all that. And of course, you find out later on, Shane made it and Shane took it up. Like, it just sets everything up. My only complaint is in the books, they're from Kentucky and not from Georgia. So there's that. Listen, my people, I have to. All right. I want to say thriller because it terrified me as a child, but it did so much work. World War Z. Thomas and I disagree on this. I actually like for me. It's an easy film for me to watch because it's not scary. But what I love about it is the idea of the 10th man. When Brad Pitt makes it to Jerusalem and he's talking to the man there that he knows, and he's talking about the idea of the 10th man and all of this. Yeah, there is this idea of these sanctuary cities, and they're doing a lot of different stuff. I felt like World War Z is actually kind of a comfort film for me to watch. I'm a big Brad Pitt fan. I think he's one of the best actors of his generation. People don't give him enough credit, but I actually find the film very easy to watch, and this idea of the contagion and so forth. And I want to give you one last one, building off what you said earlier, Kelly. And this is a stretch. Serpent and the Rainbow.
Oh my God! I have never watched it. Oh,
you
Thomas,
never watched Serpent?
Never watched Serpent.
Holy shit!
No, I have not. No, you're gonna make me watch this, aren't you? No.
You're a good person. You deserve good things. This is not really Jason.
I haven't seen Serpent and the Rainbow since I was a child. I just remember it was terrifying to me because I believe it's set in Haiti. It's voodoo. All of these. I remember as a kid being just terrified.
I showed it the first time I taught my zombies class in my MA. I showed that film, and I have never inflicted that.
I haven't seen it as an adult.
Okay, it's it gets portrayed as like this is a real thing, and then all of the like if you dig in deep to like the book that's based on, it all is all very, very speculative. But yes, it's your traditional like Haitian Vodun zombie. What if it's real? What if we're still experiencing in the 70s? And I don't love it. Jason, have you read World War Z, Max Brooks' World War Z?
No, I need to put this in my book club.
Okay.
We're finishing up a Summons to Memphis tomorrow night.
Yeah. So the thing for me about the movie World War Z is like my problem with Will Smith's I Am Legend. I'm sure it's a fine film. I'm sure Brad Pitt's World War Z is a fine film. I'm sure Will Smith's I Am Legend is a fine film. I cannot embrace them as independent projects because Richard Matheson's I Am Legend is my second favorite modern vampire novel. And then this is what we get. And I can't deal with that well. I love the book World War Z. I love it so much. I took a class in undergrad that like we read Studs Terkel's Oral History of World War II. And like World War Z is such a brilliant retelling of that through the zombie. It's so good. And then like that's the movie we get. Like you couldn't do the book as a movie. You couldn't. That's why no one had. But like that's it. It's a fine little film. It's fine. It's good.
I want to ask you guys, this may be the last question. We always ask if these things are history movies, but I don't want to do that tonight because I think there's one last topic we haven't really touched on that is a real theme in a lot of these films, which is what is the greater threat? Is it the undead or is it the people who were left behind? So, Kelly, what are your thoughts here? What's more dangerous?
Yeah, I think that this is such a good question. And I think that I always go with the Romero answer, which is it's the neighbors that are the more dangerous party here. It's not the zombies, right? It's always the people that you're dealing with or having to come across or encounter or something like this that are always more dangerous in these situations. What's interesting about Dawn of the Dead, the one that we watched for tonight, is that doesn't play out as much in this, right? Like there are some threats between this and there's some conflict,
CJ initially,
but it's not like the 1978 one where there's a motorcycle gang, right? That they're like an active threat against them, right? Or something like this. So I think that, in this one, it is actually like zombies that are the problem. But I think overwhelmingly that in the genre, it's other humans that you can't trust that are really the issue, right? That when the world falls apart, people start acting out in ways that are only beneficial to themselves. And if you work with them, then it's okay for you. But if you are working anyway against them, then it turns out really badly. And so I just think that's something that's really interesting about the genre is that everybody gets caught up in the zombie piece of it sometimes, and they don't realize the like interpersonal human relation piece that's so fascinating is what's on the mind of a lot of these creators. It's what they're thinking about. It's like, no, what's going on in Night of the Living Dead is like we're putting these people together and seeing what happens, right? And what happens is bad shit, right? It's not the zombies are threatening, yes, but like people can't get along even when the world's falling apart. So,
Thomas?
I mean, usually it's about other people, right? I mean, like that is fundamentally the principle of most of it, that like humans are the real enemy. I mean, like The Walking Dead, when it's going well, that is the thing that like we are the Walking Dead. It's not the zombies. This one, it's not it though. This one, it is the flesh-eating monstrosity. It is the actual faceless, mindless, horrific other.
yeah.
I wonder if that's a product of the time period. Because like when I saw this in theaters, I wasn't prepared to like talk about like I was just watching in real time. It was 2004. This was fall 2004? Was this beginning of my sophomore year of undergrad? I'm young. Ish. I'm young-ish for the circles of people I chat with. And like I was just like, this is a cool zombie movie. I went after like working at the Superdome with a bunch of my friends from like the Superdome, and we drink daiquiris and we watch zombie movies. Like it was a great time. But like I wonder how much of this is still the immediate aftermath of 9/11 and the invasion of Iraq, and the kind of like the war on terror, but also like the fear rhetoric that like at any moment your life could be overturned and the only solution is through like strength and unity and violence against the faceless enemy who's out there. Like the actual like fear-based aspect of, you know, you're just a bunch of regular people minding your own business, living your life, and then suddenly like, you know, violence comes into your big Midwestern town. I don't know that that's the thing, right? Like I'm not sure James Gunn at this point would care to talk about this again. I'm not sure that he would remember. But like there's a bit of it that rewatching it now, that if you're not dealing with your fellow Americans being the threat that's going to get you killed, this is very much like, hey, here we are safe in this bastion of like suburban glory, the mall. And here together we are safe with our firearms and our froyo and our, you know, generic band of intrepid heroes. And then it all goes very poorly because it has to. But like this holding on to this idyllic vision of an America that no longer exists.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you set this movie in 2024, 20 years later, if we make this movie now, how does it change?
There are no malls.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, when I was watching
the places are there, right?
Yeah, but they already feel like a horror movie set because they're abandoned, and
they're empty,
flickering, and there are fewer and fewer people and fewer
no
stores.
froyo to survive on.
You couldn't make a movie about the mall as a bastion of capitalism, so it doesn't like. If you were to remake this movie now, where do they go? That makes sense.
Disney World.
We have gotten rid of the third spaces, so like there is no communal center for them to show up at.
I have it.
Oh God,
the university. We send them to the university.
I don't want that.
It's higher ed that will save us all.
Jason, that like I don't want to die in my office building. Like no offense. Like I already spent enough time there. I don't want to die on campus. That is not the way I want to go out.
Oh.
God,
yeah, but
it's gonna be the student center. You're gonna lock yourself in the student center. Well, that's what I was like.
I was like the student center.
It's where the food is,
right? A stadium. Play pool. Yeah, I mean,
like, listen, this is my favorite thing about Warm Bodies is, of course, that like you're doing the traditional thing of making the stadiums your last bastion of humanity. I mean, it's beautifully medieval. All of the remaining Roman arenas get turned into fortified city centers in the early Middle Ages. Yeah, I don't want it, Jason. I don't want that. I do not want a campus-based zombie movie. That is just no.
All right, concluding thoughts on Dawn of the Dead, zombies writ large. Kelly?
Oh, I don't know. I really enjoyed Dawn of the Dead, and I thought it actually held up pretty well, considering like there were some nostalgia pieces for me about it, but I thought as a zombie film that it held up pretty well 20 years later. And
effects were good.
Yeah, effects were good. And I thought that it was interesting to watch a zombie film where it just kind of goes with narrative and there weren't any surprises. You know, there's something comforting about that, right? Like that you can just watch something that goes with the genre and you know what you're getting, and you know you're not going to get a happy ending, and that's okay. But yeah, it is one of those too where I think that it made me think a lot about zombies today and sort of where we are, right? And if they're still as appealing as they once were. And that's kind of an interesting question for me about like where we are with zombies now. And I don't know what the answer to that really is, but just thinking about the different periods of interest that we've had on them, sort of, is Gen Z really interested in the zombie in the same way that earlier generations were? I don't know.
I think it's probably harder to get people excited in a fun kind of way about the idea of a pandemic spreading around the world that destroys society in a way that'll never be the same again.
That's a good point.
I mean, I just think that the contagion tales just don't work.
No. Well, like, at least right now, they're a horror genre in a very different way, not in the fun kind of we're happy to be scared in the, oh God, this is our life now kind of way. And like, I don't think you have a huge market for like, what if we just push some existential dread about your own current existence on you some more? Here, you paid a lot of money to come here and eat overpriced popcorn and sit for 2 hours. Let's reinforce your anxiety.
Right.
You say that, but you were just saying earlier that you can't wait for 28 months later to come out.
I know, but that's nostalgia for a world that no longer exists. Right. So the thing for me is that when I watch this movie, I am transported back to New Orleans. Right. So for me, this is nostalgia on two levels, because this is I loved going to Tulane. I loved New Orleans. I loved being in that city. I loved going to school there. I loved most things about who I was when I was there. I remember seeing this movie in theaters with friends that I never talked to again after Hurricane Katrina, because their numbers were no longer in service. And I never went back. Right. So like this is a movie that is tied to a very particular place and experience for me, with people who were very dear to me that now exist in a world that is literally before and I am living after. And like, Hurricane Katrina is not a huge tragedy for me personally. I was a college student. I wasn't from New Orleans. Like, this is not my, like, don't weep for me, fucking Argentina. Like, this is not my tragedy. But like, things were just like that. That is a period of my life that has a very firm ending point, and it's when the city drowns. So like, this movie is hugely nostalgic, not only because it's 20 years ago, because like where I was 20 years ago and how radically everything is different after that. So like, I watched this movie and it holds up in all the ways I need it to, while also like the vision of a life that doesn't exist anymore as depicted on the screen is constantly present, because the world that I existed in when I saw this movie the first time ceased shortly thereafter. And so like, I love watching this movie. I love sitting down and watching this movie. I get a lot of feelings when I'm watching this movie that have nothing to do with the zombies on screen, who are mostly just trying to like rip out your throat with their teeth. I appreciate the fact that there are no twists and turns. I don't have to overthink it. I love that, you do get a straightforward zombie movie where things are bad and then they stay bad and there's some moments of levity. And then at the end, everything's bad and everyone dies. Like, no one is asking you to have like weird feelings about the zombies. Like, the zombies are there to eat you. And then in the end they do. But it's a movie that 20 years later, like, I still own, I still love watching, and I was still excited to do for this podcast. And I rewatched it, and I watched it at least once more this month. I love this movie. Not a lot of movies hold up this well 20 years later. I don't rewatch a lot of movies that I loved in undergrad, because every so often I watch one and it does not work. And then I feel really sad. And then sometimes I feel the ick. There's no ick in this movie. I come out of this movie just be delighted. I find myself like humming the Richard Cheese version of Down with the Sickness for days afterwards.
Thomas Lecaque, Kelly Baker. John Wyatt Greenlee might be dead to us. You are still... But you are still very much alive and here in spirit. Guys, thank you so very much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
And that's a wrap here at Historians of the Movies podcast. Thank you so very much to our guests, Thomas Lecaque and Kelly Baker. Guys, that was a blast to talk to you. I think we laughed more than we should about a horror movie, but okay. Fletcher Powell, I don't know if you're making it out of the zombie apocalypse, but if I can, I'm bringing you with me. Thank you, Fletcher, for producing this show. And thank you all for continuing to be part of the HATM world. We've got a lot more stuff coming for you soon. A whole new podcast coming for you as well. We're calling it Reckoning with Jason Herbert. Expect that out here in the next few weeks. Guys, there's going to be a lot of stuff here coming for you. So thank you so much for being part of this. If you want to support this thing, go to patreon.com/historians at the movies. We'll get you some swag. You'll get a shout out here on the pod, and you will have my eternal thank you. So thank you for being part of this, and we will catch you next time. Ciao for now.